Lamentations chapter 3. Before I read this chapter, I'm going to say a bit about this as a poem so that as you're listening and reading along, you can understand a bit of what's going on. This is an acrostic poem, which means that it starts with Aleph and then Bet and works all the way through the Hebrew alphabet. As one scholar has described, this acrostic, it's a sort of mourning everything from A to Z. It's going through every single possible thing there is to mourn, because there's a lot to mourn at this stage. Jerusalem has been destroyed. The people are in exile. It is disaster and death everywhere. Acrostics like this, and acrostics generally, are typical of scribal practice. It was a feature of scribal education, a way of helping to preserve the memory of the community. And so it's interesting to think here about what is being preserved for the community here. Grief and the process of grief, the memories of trauma, the process of working through such trauma. Maybe hope is being remembered here, but I want us to think as we get to the second big kind of movement in the poem about whether this is really hope or whether it's kind of a bargaining and coping mechanism. Now this chapter 3 is set up in patterns of 3. Each letter gets 3 verses. And so each stanza is a 3-verse stanza. And then there are also 3 big movements. There's a break after stanza 7, and then stanza 14 seems to end another movement. And then on the 22nd stanza, we've got kind of a doubling of the 21st stanza. I'm going to read it now, and then I want to say a few things about some of the themes that emerge. I am one who has seen affliction by the rod of the Lord's wrath. He has driven me away and made me walk in darkness rather than light. Indeed, he has turned his hand against me again and again all day long. He has made my skin and my flesh grow old and has broken my bones. He has besieged me and surrounded me with bitterness and hardship. He has made me dwell in darkness like those long dead. He has walked me in so I cannot escape. Sorry, let me reread that verse. He has walled me in so I cannot escape. He has weighed me down with chains. Even when I call out or cry for help, he shuts out my prayer. He has barred my way with blocks of stone. He has made my paths crooked. Like a bear lying in wait, like a lion in hiding, he dragged me from the path and mangled me and left me without help. He drew his bow and made me the target for his arrows. He pierced my heart with arrows from his quiver. I became the laughingstock of all my people. They mock me in song all day long. He has filled me with bitter herbs and sated me with gall. He has broken my teeth with gravel. He has trampled me in the dust. I have been deprived of peace. I have forgotten what prosperity is. So I say, my splendor is gone, and all that I had hoped for from the Lord. I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I well remember them, and my soul is downcast within me. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those who hope in him, to the one who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. It is good for people to bear the yoke while they are young. Let them sit alone in silence, for the Lord has laid it on them. Let them bury their faces in the dust. There may yet be hope. Let them offer their cheeks to the one who would strike them, and let them be filled with disgrace. For people are not cast off by the Lord forever. Though he brings grief, he will show compassion. So great is his unfailing love, for he does not willingly bring affliction or grief to any human being. To crush underfoot all the prisoners in the land, to deny people their rights before the Most High, to deprive them of justice, would not the Lord see such things? Who can speak and have it happen if the Lord has not decreed it? It is not from the mouth of the Most High that both calamities and good things come? Why should the living complain when punished for their sins? Let us examine our ways and test them. Let us return to the Lord. Let us lift up our hearts and our hands to God in heaven and say, we have sinned and rebelled, and you have not forgiven. You have covered yourself with anger and pursued us. You have slain without pity. You have covered yourself with a cloud that no prayer can get through. You have made us scum and refuse among the nations. All our enemies have opened their mouths wide against us. We have suffered terror and pitfalls, ruin and destruction. Streams of tears flow from my eyes because my people are destroyed. My eyes will flow unceasingly without relief until the Lord looks down from heaven and sees what I see brings grief to my soul because of all the women of my city. Those who were my enemies without cause hunted me like a bird. They tried to end my life in a pit and threw stones at me. The waters closed over my head, and I thought I was about to perish. I called on your name, Lord, from the depths of the pit. You heard my plea. Do not close your ears to my cry for relief. You came near when I called you, and you said, do not fear. You, Lord, took up my case. You redeemed my life. Lord, you have seen the wrong done to me. Uphold my cause. You have seen the depth of their vengeance, all their plots against me. Lord, you have heard their insults, all their plots against me. What my enemies whisper and mutter against me all day long. Look at them, sitting or standing. They mock me in their songs. Pay them back what they deserve, Lord, for what their hands have done. Put a veil over their hearts, and may your curse be on them. Pursue them in anger and destroy them from under the heavens of the Lord. This is an interesting poem because it's working through so much grief. And what's interesting is the way in which we can see the speaker working through so many stages of grief. He blames himself and the community. He blames God. You notice that God is the one who's the real problem, the one who's really against him at the beginning. And then we have that strange turn in the Zion stanza at verse 19, where he starts to remember his afflictions and has hope. But what's interesting about this is it turns to this like, no, God won't be angry forever, so maybe if we just repent, he'll be nice to us. It almost feels like the speaker's starting to bargain with God, right? And bargain with the people. Look, maybe we can still get out of this. Maybe God will save us if we repent. Like, let's try this out. I promise I'll be good this time. I promise if we can please just make this stop. Please make this grief go away. Please make this destruction come to an end. I'll change everything. Because of course, then we fall back into it. But you've kept pursuing us. It still sucks. Things are still horrible. Everyone is still pushing against me. And so we see in this poem the process of grief being worked through and worked out. And finally, the cry. Maybe God's against me. Maybe I've screwed up. I promise I'll try to do better. Things are still really hard. God, be just. I don't know about you, but for me, oftentimes, the things that I most lament in my life feel exactly like this. It feels very much like God is against me. It feels very much like, no, wait, if I can just like force myself and pull myself through to hope again, like I promise I'll be good this time. I'm going to hope. And then I just can't. It kind of falls apart on me because the reality of suffering is still there, and I'll have good days and then bad ones. And that's what I see going on in this lamentation, in this chapter. The speaker wrestling with this. Notice the interplay between the I and the we. This is often the case too when you're part of a community of trauma, right? There is your individual suffering, but you know that you're not alone in that suffering, that others share it. And so you feel like you're simultaneously wondering about yourself. Why do I have to suffer this way? But actually, why do all of us have to suffer this way? And that particularity, but also the shared communal trauma, start to feed off of each other. This chapter doesn't give us any answers. And really, the book of Lamentations doesn't really give us any answers. Rather, it makes space so that we can lament. And in fact, in making space for lament, in bringing it in to a collection of holy texts, we're actually told that such lament is good. Our process of grief is good, necessary, real, and something apparently God actually wants to hear about.